We want to remind everyone we have social media exclusive content like our 2-minute drill as well as other video content. To find that, please make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for more. We are kicking off episode 12 of the Let's Be Frank video podcast. I'm your host, Jason Duhe. I will be shortly joined by Hall of Fame head coach Frank Monica, but we have a loaded show for you tonight. We're going to talk week 1 LHSAA football playoffs, preview some games for the second week of the playoffs. We're going to talk LSU, Tulane, Saints football, and we're going to have special guest Dunham head football coach and athletic director Neil Weiner. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and thank our title sponsor. We want to go ahead and thank Accardo and Dufresne Law Firms, your go-to River Parish lawyers. So we're going to go ahead and bring on head coach Frank Monica. And coach, when we look at these brackets and the way that things have been separated for the playoffs, how much do you think that impacts colleges from an evaluation standpoint of high school athletes? And we mentioned it last week when we had on Mount Moscona, the real people getting the shaft here with this NIL and transfer portal world is the high school players. So how much does this split impact the evaluation for them?
Well, the most important thing is that they're playing more, and now college coaches get an opportunity to go. A lot of the colleges are finishing up at the end of the year and buy dates, and you get a chance to go watch more players out there. And, most guys like to see guys play in a real tight game and a real good competition so they can make that final evaluation. Is he a player? Is he a take or not? Is he a blue chipper, or is he a guy that we'll offer later on, or maybe is a potential preferred walk-on? So anytime you're playing out there and you're playing on the field, you're really helping yourself out, you're helping your program, and that's the school and the community. So the playoffs are big. But, one thing that must be considered in the playoffs, we're now getting to the second week, and a lot of these teams took a bye. Some of the better teams that were highly ranked, and with the 8, there were 8 one side that were on each side of the bracket, that 8 teams that got by. So that really, I think, matters a lot, because all of a sudden you had no one to play, and sometimes you can lose your edge when that takes place. And it does help from the standpoint of getting you healed up a little bit. Maybe you can scout and spend a little bit more time with that next opponent, or maybe future opponents. But it depends on how people handle it, and every coach handles the bye week differently. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how it works out. Now, if the team is not a really competitive team, that's a different story. But sometimes you can get these matchups. In this second week, you're now starting to get matchups, and that's when a lot of upsets will take place in the second week, not so much the first week. First week went probably very smoothly.
Coach, how much do you think, just from a standpoint of health and injuries leading into the playoffs, that coaches appreciate that bye week or not? I feel like that does play into it a lot, whether or not they do feel like, as you mentioned, maybe they lose that edge, or maybe it's just dependent on the season where, hey, we get a chance to heal up, and I really love this bye week.
To be honest with you, I never did like bye weeks. I think your team loses focus. They lose momentum when it comes to that, and they give them too much time to hang out and hang around, maybe get into some things. I know we had issues with kids wanting to go hunting and fishing when they had an opportunity to do that and get a little bit away from football, which is good in a way, but yet on the flip side of it, you got to be very careful, because you got to also corral that energy and get it back and get that focus back. And sometimes they don't, because, listen, they bracket read like everybody else, and the media has a tremendous impact on that in terms of saying, well, they want to put the matchups well in advance of when these teams actually will play one another. And sometimes those matchups don't occur because somebody can get ambushed along the way.
Speaking of bracket watching and looking ahead, let's go ahead and dive right into our prep talk. We are going to look at these brackets and break them down. Coach, what are your thoughts on some of the matchups that occurred this past week and what we're going to see to come this weekend, maybe even some future matchups?
Well, right here, Coach, I'm just going to quickly go down the D1 non-select first and just pick some games in there, not the whole bracket. Don't want to bore everybody, but Walker, Chad Mahaffey's done a phenomenal job over there. And North Shore, tremendous upset of West Monroe. First time, I think, in years that West Monroe lost in a bye dish at West Monroe, which is a tremendous program. There was a field goal that was blocked at the end of the game, so that must have been an exciting finish for North Shore. So Walker's going to take them on. Remember, North Shore is a 25 seed, but that was a tremendous seed. Destrehan, number 5, playing Belle Chase. Now, Belle Chase was actually participated in 4A competition. Now they have to play number 5, Destrehan, at Destrehan. Actually, Destrehan was the bye last week. Central with a big win against East St. John last week at East St. John, going to take on number 2 Neville. And Neville is always a talented football team, and they're number 2 for a reason. And when we go down to D2, a non-select side, there's Lutcher at number 4 playing Abbeville. So Abbeville earlier in the year, and Abbeville coming off a big win. They weren't really impressive when I saw them against St. Charles, but somehow or another they got their act together. They certainly have the people. They have the people to play. And it depends what team shows up, and they give Lutcher a lot of trouble because of their size. But Lutcher knows how to win. They've been there before. Coach Jenkins, he's been Superdome and defender state champion. North DeSoto, though, is the number 1 team, and they're going to take on number 17, DeRitter. So the only reason I mention them because they haven't played last week, and DeRitter came off a nice victory themselves. After this, you have Iota, number 15, playing the number 2 Cecilia, as I talked about it before. The sources tell me Cecilia has a tremendous quarterback over there, and by Iota is always a very, very tough and physical football program, even though they're 15th seed. So, but never count them out. And non-select also D3. St. James, right here on the river, is number 3. A surprise team. Coach thought he was very, very young. Coach Davis did a great job with them. They play number 14, North Webster, at home. So St. James will be home for that. St. James actually had a bye last week. Number 1, Gina, in that classification, goes against Caldwell, who is number 16 seed. So that's a big disparity there. But again, remember, at this point, everybody rolls back to 0-0. And then in D3 also, you have Mansfield, number 18, playing number 2, Sterlington. And Sterlington is always a dome team, a team that plays real rugged football, and they have a nice offense. So you look for naturally for them to move on. But remember, Mansfield, that's not far away. D4, the D4 classification, non-select. Logansport is the number 1, playing Franklin, and then, who's also in number 16 team. So we pretty much know how that pattern is going to shake out. Faraday is the next matchup against Kentwood, number 2 Kentwood, going behind the water tower there, underneath the water tower. Faraday is number 15, Kentwood is number 2. If not anything, they both have excellent bands, so it's something you might want to watch. And also Oak Grove with number 3 seed playing against number 19, Lake Arthur. Now, I brought this game out because number 2, Haynesville, and General Trash, number 20, they play one another, but it looks like Oak Grove and Haynesville is on the collision course to play, and that's all rivals that have been in the Superdome many times. Moving on to the select side, we're going to cover a bunch of teams because I think there's a lot of good games here on the select side and in our viewing area. A lot of people that watch our show. Number 1, Holy Cross, for the first time in a long time, they've been a number 1 seed. They will take on a Jesuit that rekindles that old rivalry. That's one of the oldest rivalries in New Orleans. Holy Cross won the first matchup, but Jesuit, I think, is a better team. They won 2 in a row now, so that's going to be a game at Tad Gormley. Number 9, Karen Crows, is going to go right across the interstate and play Acadiana at 8. So that's really be a fine game. That'd be a heck of a crowd, a lot of excitement there when you play a cross-town rival there. So that could go either way. Carr, number 5, will take on Woodlawn. And again, Carr, you know how talented they are. They lost the last ball game of the year, but they're very, very talented. Number 4, Brother Martin will play Alexandria. Alexandria has to come to Brother Martin, and Brother Martin's going to play that one, that Guinea. That's just been decided as of yesterday. And so that's an interesting matchup there. Catholic High is going to take on John Ehret. Catholic High is the number 3 seed. And you know about them. They're one of the best programs in the state year in, year out. And but this year they have not had a great season, but they're still who they are. They play great complementary football. And then here we have John Curtis, number 8, taking on 22 St. Aug, which is an old district foe. And that game, we all know that if St. Aug puts it all together, they give anybody fits because they certainly have the talent. But it looks like John Curtis has righted the ship, and I don't know if anybody wants to play them right now. St. Paul, number 7, is taking on Tioga, with an interesting matchup there. And a number 7 against a number 10. So Tioga is a good football program, too. So this game, I look for this to be very low scoring. Both of them play real good defense. And then we have number 18. Win last week playing Captain Shreve, number 2 in the state. Captain Shreve, the team that's scoring over 30 points a game, sort of putting up a bunch of points. They're giving up a few, but putting up a bunch of points. Rummel has to go back to Shreveport 2 weeks in a row. And I know Coach Monica probably knows the system now, but yeah, it's going to be hard to stop them and slow them down. And they're going to have to play complementary football. In D2, you have Shaw, number 5, playing against Evangel. Evangel has resurrected that program. For years, that used to be the hallmark in the Shreveport area about the best football team in the state was Evangel. Now they look like they got that program going back again to like they used to be. And so they play Shaw and Coach Tierney's team at Shaw. Number 13, Vanderbilt is taking on John F. Kennedy, surprise team there, number 4 seed, John F. Kennedy. So that could be interesting. Vanderbilt is very young, but they're a very physical football team. And then I think this one of the better matchups of the night would be De La Salle and E.D. White. Even though De La Salle is a 15 seed and E.D. White's a 2 seed, De La Salle has played a real tough schedule. And I mean, I think one of the toughest schedules for their class in the state. So that could be a really good matchup there in Thibodaux. In D3 Select, we have St. Charles Catholic playing against Ascension Episcopal. They're a 17 seed. They won last week. St. Charles has naturally had the bye, being a 1 seed, and they've been there before, and I'm sure they're looking forward to playing the home game and after they get more after that. Then you have number 9 Notre Dame playing D'Arbonne Woods, who's a new school, basically a new school, and they're the 8 seed. Notre Dame is the number 9 seed, and naturally you have to think that both teams are looking. Notre Dame is probably looking again at next week at coming to St. Charles for a rematch again for the 3rd year in a row. And then you have Newman, number 3, playing St. Thomas Aquinas. That had a tremendous game last week, and they won at the end against North Lake Christian, which was a rematch, a 1-point game, 36-35. But Newman, I think, is waiting I think they're licking their chops after they get back on the field after the loss to St. Charles Catholic. So they have a fine football team, and I know that they're looking to create a little disturbance there in the playoffs, and they can. Number 4, U-High might be one of the better, more talented teams in that division. They're taking on a young Patrick Taylor team that at 13. So those teams, U-High and St. Charles Catholic, seem to be, and Notre Dame always seem to the same side of the bracket. In D4 Select, Vermilion Catholic is going to play Dale High, number 17. VC is number 1 seed. And then we have Ascension Catholic, the 9 seed, going to play Opelousas, the 8 seed. Opelousas got a real fine program over there going. Last year, they really overcame a lot of things and ended up to semifinals. So that could be a fine game. And here on the river, you have Riverside, the number 5 seed, playing Catholic at Point Coupé, the number 12 seed. But Riverside looks like they're cocked and ready to go to make a big run all the way to the Dome. And don't be surprised if they end up there. Number 20, Covenant Christian, number 20, is going to play St. Martin, number 4. And St. Martin's, I think, is headed for a collision course against Riverside. Let me back up on Riverside. They will honor the 1983 football team that won the state championship there. And I was fortunate enough to be their head coach in that particular year. There was some fine, tough-nosed guys there. A lot of them had to go 2 ways. And the last one of that matchup that we think will be a significant game will be Southern Lab, the number 2 seed, playing against Hanson Memorial, the number 13 seed. But now there are others naturally in this bracket, but we took the games that we think of the most importance that could impact the bracket, and we'll go on for next week.
Coach, when you talk about the vast experiences that you've had as a coach, you talk about all these games, all these brackets. What is a game that stands out to you as being more energetic and more charged than usual as it comes to the playoffs, whether it be at St. Charles, Jesuit, or Riverside? What's a game, or Lutcher for that matter, what's a game that stands out to you from the playoffs where you could feel the atmosphere, where it was a very intense matchup on the field, but also that energy from the crowd really played a role in it?
Yeah, there's so many, Jason, over the years. I mean, we played St. Charles. We played Parkview Baptist. They had my good friend Kenny Guillat, who's deceased now, brought a big Parkview Baptist team to St. Charles. And we ended up in a 2-minute drill and drove down the field and kicked a field goal to win it, to put us in the Superdome, to win the state championship. So that was a crazy moment there. I remember one year, and there were several of these. I remember when you went up to Benton to play a 12-0 team, and when we came out of the locker room, I can remember, I don't know what it was, maybe it had a lot of firewater, but our fans just seemed to be so loud and energetic, and they scored on the first play of the game. but we ended up beating them 55-7. So I mean, it was one of those games that I don't know. They were a good football team too, but we just played lights out. And there are a lot of cases like that. I mean, sometimes when you play your best, you come out of the locker room and you feel like you're ready, but then all of a sudden you get punched in the mouth, and it's a total different story. So just because you get the energy and in the locker room, they look like they're prepared, but all of a sudden when they snap that ball in the first possession or so, maybe you didn't want to play, and you back down, and that's what you see in a lot of. I think that the way games unfold are very, very important. You can even see it on television. You can see where the team in the first quarter is really jacked up. Now they might up coming back and losing the game at the end, but you really tell in the first quarter where teams are really, really jacked up. In football, it's all about emotion and intensity. It's all about that. So not always the best team wins, and sometimes they're not ready. Sometimes they turn over the ball, and because they have other things on their mind. Had that happen to us before too.
So, Coach, also when you talk about the playoffs, we know it's do or die. Every game matters. Every play, your football life is on the line. So, with that being said, I'm pretty sure I know the way you're going to answer this question, but is there a quicker flip of the switch maybe because of that? Because you don't have any room to give, that maybe you go into a game and you realize early on, maybe we need to change our approach to the game plan. Is there a quicker switch that you hit maybe when you're in the playoffs to change your game plan, or a willingness to change that game plan because you know there's no more tomorrow?
What you have to be very careful of, Jason, when you get in the playoffs, is putting too much in. I had a conversation with a young coach the other day about that, and my old coach taught me, he said, when you don't execute, get out the eraser, not the pen. And what that means, it's easy for us. And for instance, a play worked this week, so I'm going to keep it in. It's not really good against this team, but I'm going to keep it in. And all of a sudden, you start to build, and you're keeping plays in that you had from the very, very first ball game. And you look at your play chart and said, I can't call all this. And so it's not what it's what those players know, what they can execute. So you got to be very, very careful, because remember, a rabbit always runs to his favorite hole. So when you can really, really execute your best plays, that's what your staple plays. I always thought that 5 or 6 plays I'm going to run against any team, no matter who we play and what down and distance. We're going to run these 5 or 6 plays. I mean, that's important that you stick to your basic. After that, you can divert just a little bit from that. But you got to be very, very careful to expand too much, because then the execution will suffer, and it will cause turnovers and frustration, sometimes sacks and stuff like that. Sometimes we can get too fancy. I had to talk to an offense coordinator the other day. He said, you know what? In the first half, I got too cute. In the second half, I went to the players and said, we got too cute. We're going back to basics. And all of a sudden, the game turned around. And that's what the kids want to hear. The kids want to know, Coach, you run behind me, because this is what we practice. That's the most important thing. And I always felt, if you run something against a scout team and it doesn't look good, it's not going to look good on Friday night either.
So since you led the conversation here, I got to ask, what was, if you had to make one call, game on the line, what would be your call? What is the one call that you would have no problem going to, assuming it's, around 3 yards to go for a first down or whatever it may be? What would be does it depend on the down and distance and the situation, I'm guessing, but in normal circumstances, what's your go-to play that you always felt you could trust?
Well, I feel it has to be a play that has some type of double option with it. In other words, there's plays that it will be based off our power play, which has been our signature play, where guards learn to pull. But it also has to have an option whether you hand the ball off or the quarterback will keep it, or it could be something like a zone read. But I think it'd have to be the thing that within your particular program and your call sheet, it's on your call sheet, and you say in this crunch time, and that's what I had. I had a play that we talked about that last week. In crunch time, these are 1 or 2 plays that I'm going to call, and we practice it. You practice in this situation, no matter what they give you. So it would be not just one play we hand the ball off. I hate to allude to this. The Saints had a 3rd and 1 the other day, and they handed the ball 7 yards deep to the back, and they got stuck. Well, on 4th down, they didn't make it either, and they went for it on 4th down. But it was the 3rd down call that I didn't understand. They underneath the center, and they handed the ball 7 yards without a lead back, and that blew my mind that they did that. They could have run a quarterback sneak because they only need 2 feet. That's all they needed to get that first down, but it didn't convert, and I think that cost them in the game. So I think it's important that you have a play that he's a zone read where the quarterback can pull it, or for me, it'd have been a power read play.
Thank you, Coach. And let's go ahead and move on to our next segment, which is going to be the college football section of our program. And when we look at these matches, we're going to look first at Tulane taking on Tulsa, another 2-win game, another tightly contested ball game. But, Coach, the big thing that we're seeing with Tulane this year is in years past, they would have lost the majority of these games, or at least that's the way it feels. It feels like these tightly contested ball games down the stretch, Tulane was losing, whereas the past 2 years, anytime it's been a tight game, Tulane's been on the positive end. I think that's a testament to the job that Coach Fritz and the staff have done of having a positive mindset, buying into the program, and that's why we're seeing these very close L's that the program has taken in the past turn into victories.
They've done a great job of managing that fourth quarter. Coach Fritz realized this. They're not the team they were last year. They know that. They have two quality linebackers still in the NFL right now. So they're not the same football team. They had two injuries to two wide receivers during the game, and I think that impacted the program. They have a big D tackle that's out right now. I don't know if Pratt played his best ball game, but Tulsa came up with a freshman quarterback and two great receivers. I don't know where these guys have been, but they moved the ball. Had Tulane not killed the clock at the end of the ball game, and a very, very smart play. When Hughes ran the ball, he could have scored. He could actually score. But knowing that he had scored, it had been an onside kick, giving the ball back, going through the whole scenario all over again and putting the defense back on the field. But by sliding like he did, in fact, I couldn't get over the commentator. The commentator said, you should have went further before you slid. It didn't matter at that point. I said, what does it matter where you slide? Once you had the first down, I thought a very, very heady play. But Coach Fritz teaches all those things. Now, all those little situations that come up, he practices those things, and that's why I might add right now. I mean, he's got Florida Atlantic, and then he's going to have a tough one at the end against San Antonio. But Coach Fritz's name is being thrown around right now for other coaching jobs, and listen. For my money, the Tulane better do all they can to keep him, because I don't think there's a better fit in the whole country than that guy.
Coach, how much do you think it comes into play when you do talk about having to hire a new athletic director at Tulane and those opportunities coming up? How important it is to make Coach Fritz a part of that process and a part of that decision-making process if they do intend to keep him as part of the Tulane family?
Well, I'm sure he's all in with that. I'm sure that the AD is going to have to go through his desk. That's what I'm thinking. I know if they want to keep him and actually make him feel like he's part of it, because football is so important. And a good hire here is very, very important for Tulane. A guy that can raise money, a guy that's going to naturally do everything they can for other sports also, not just football, but a guy that's got some foresight. And I think that's what they really need. A guy that raise money, but a guy's got some foresight and take that what Coach Fritz wants on his wish list. Because I don't know if they've ever accomplished what he wants on his wish list yet. So, and I think for them to keep him, aside from salary raises and stuff like that, because coaches had a tremendous turnover in the staff, but he's overcome that, and everybody he brings in, it works out. But it all comes from him because of his organization and his work ethic.
Thanks, Coach. And when you look at their next game, they take on Florida Atlantic. What is it important that they accomplish in this game moving forward with their program, and again to continue staying in contention for that major bowl berth?
Well, they ranked number 17, so it's so important for them to be the first team outside of Power 5 team. The highest rank there will get a New Year's Day game, so that's huge. So that's why a win, no matter how they do it, if it's 1-0, is very, very important against Florida Atlantic. And as you know, going on the road is always tough. I mean, things are different, the atmosphere is different. You stay in a different bed, so I don't care who you're playing. They have 11 on the field. They also have scholarships like you do. So it's important, regardless what their record is, that they start to play well. Because if they do really want to play well, want to play the New Year's Day Bowl, they have to play better than what they've played before. And I think that, and if they get healthy again, I think they will.
Thanks, Coach. And we're going to go ahead and move on to LSU as they defeated the Florida Gators handily in that matchup, or at least pulled away at the end. And, Coach, the story has to be Jaden Daniels' performance. Just the first player in the history of college football to throw for 350 yards, to rush for 200 yards. And the question comes into play, how can he not be the favorite for the Heisman at this moment? We know that there are other really quality players on better teams, but I think what does come into question is, what is this award truly? Is it about naming the best player in college football, the player who has done this against the fifth toughest schedule in the country, or is it a beauty pageant? Is it the best player on the best team? Is it the player who puts up the most stats on the best team? And I think that's going to kind of be put to the test this year. But, Coach, how do you not have Daniels as your Heisman frontrunner?
Well, one reason right now is that Vegas has Bo Nix of Oregon, and because of the schedule, Bo Nix in Washington, because Washington's undefeated. Penix is the next best guy. But I think Bo Nix is probably right now by the sports writers and the media itself, because they have a big media in California, in that area. So I think they could really push Bo Nix. But I agree with you totally. Anybody that's watched him, no player has made an impact on his team more. Bo Nix is a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. But Bo Nix can't do what Jalen Daniels did. And the impact, put it this way, if LSU did not have Jalen Daniels, they'd be 500 team, if they would be 500. I mean, you look back, their offense is based on him. Not only his deep ball ability, but he extends plays. He can scramble and still throw the ball deep. I saw a stat the other day that I really, really like, throws on the run. And I mean, when you look back at that, it's all about that. Remember I said that throws on the run was a stat. How many throws the guy makes on the run? Meaning he breaks the pocket, but he's still got his eyes up the field, making those throws. When he doesn't, he is absolutely fast. I mean, he's a 4.4 guy, and the other night it showed it. But I agree with you. I mean, but let me go back and Jalen Daniels, I agree with you, totally. I would vote for him in a heartbeat. But the defense from LSU is really still suffering. They forced a couple of punts the other night against a very average Florida team. But I will say this, that they got to get better because they don't tackle well, they don't cover. I don't see that the communication in the back end has not been what you like to see. And as I said before, right now, what player on that football team would be an all-conference selection on the defense? I'm talking on the defense alone only. What player would be all-conference on that defense? And so, but I think they have the ability, but for some reason not getting out of it. Now, this week is a really dangerous little football team. Georgia State is a team that can come into Tiger Stadium and really, I don't know if they have enough ability to beat LSU, but they certainly can test their mettle a little bit, especially if LSU goes in there and doesn't play real hard with a lot of emotion, a lot of intensity. But if they want to go to a decent bowl, this is going to count for a W at the end. And of course, everybody wants to go there to see Jalen Daniels. But don't forget, Georgia State, I watched them on television, and they got some ability. So the Sun Belt Conference is a pretty good conference, so don't sell them short.
And, Coach, I do want to clarify, too, I know a lot of people look at the defensive performance of LSU and, again, rightfully criticized. But they did give up 7 due to something we've talked about a few times, which is special teams issues. You fumble the kickoff, and you get the ball on the 10-yard line, and who's not going to punch it in from there? So I do think that the same thing is, Coach, this was an improvement from the defense. This has been one of the better performances of the year. And, again, it was by no means good or great. It was okay. And the way this offense is playing, though, okay might be enough to get the job done most of the time. So you do have Georgia State, and as you mentioned, it's by no means a gimme win, but this is a game by all means you should win. And then you have to take on A&M. So you have to win out. And as you mentioned, if they don't win out, then yes, Daniels' Heisman hopes are dead. But again, we'll see moving forward how that progresses. And if depending on the media, as you mentioned, how they push the Heisman favorite.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and move along to the New Orleans Saints as they took a loss this week, Coach. And, we discussed leading into this game that they've been playing a lot of second-string quarterbacks. They've not been playing a lot of starters, but we continue to say, a win is a win. You're playing professional. When you're in a professional league, every win matters. Every win counts the same. But taking this loss against a guy who's only been with the team really for legitimately around a week and a half, if that, does this change the outlook on the season? Does this change the way that we view this football team?
Well, I certainly do. I think the football team, I think, the media was after Carr signed, the media was ecstatic about the receivers, and they should have been. and the offensive line and the playmakers, Kamara coming back after suspension and things of that nature. But on the flip side of it, what you're seeing now in the NFL, Dobbs proved that. Quarterbacks that can move. Carr throws a beautiful pass, but when he sits in the pocket, he's stationary in the pocket. And every now and then he'll flush. But you need quarterbacks now that can move out of the pocket because the rush is tenacious. And whether it's 4-man rush, 3-man rush, and with a blitz, if they're going to blitz with another guy, hoping that the back will pick him up in a 6-man protection. But the rush, these guys, they're the highest paid guys on the defense, are these edge rushers. So you better have a quarterback that can move a little bit. And his drops need to be pure and stuff like that. And I think that's very, or get the ball out of your hand quicker. Dobbs proved that. He was in the Manning camp. I remember when he was there. He had a great arm, and I didn't realize how well he can run. And he proved that. He pulled the ball a couple of times, and everybody talks about the so-called spy we talked about on the show last week. But the Saints, as I said, that third down and one was one call that I didn't understand on that third down and one. But yet the defense has been very porous lately. And that's not like them because they have a real good secondary. But, they have a couple penalties against it that didn't help. And I'd love to see them regroup. I mean, they lost a couple of players, Lattimore, and looked like Thomas is out for a little while, and maybe even Carr. But I'd like to see them regroup. And I think Winston is very, very capable. He can move. He can throw the deep ball. He's very, very capable to lead them to victory. But they got to start riding the ship. Got to start playing better. Every one of their ball games has been going down to the fourth quarter, And they have to play more complementary football with the offense to the defense, and I think their special teams have been excellent all year. Their special teams have been really, really good. As far as their coverage program and the return yardage, that's been excellent. But they really need to shore up that defense to go back to with the way they used to play. Everybody talks about the pass rush. They've eliminated the pass rush a little, but you can tell their defense lacks a little speed. One of the linebackers, Demario Davis, one of the best in the league. The other linebacker just lacks. I think he's got great run instincts, but I think he probably lacks maybe a little foot speed.
Do we see the Saints bounce back against a rival on the road as they take on Atlanta?
I think they will. I think this off week is going to correct a lot of mistakes, and I think that's all about perception. And one guy told me about the NFL. You just got to manage those egos, and you get those egos going in the right direction, and get those guys to play together. And they got great leadership, especially with Cam Jordan and Demario Davis. They got great leadership on that football team. Carr's a great leader, but I just think that they need to play better and play harder and eliminate the mistakes. They have a lot of penalties, and some of it's not their fault. I just don't understand what the officials are looking at sometimes.
Thanks, Coach. And that'll do it for our first segment. When we come back after the break, we're going to have special guest Dunham head football coach and athletic director Neil Weiner. But before we do that, we are going to go ahead and thank our title sponsor, Accardo and Duhe Law Firms, your go-to River Parish lawyers. We'll be right back after the break.
Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
Welcome back to the Let's Be Frank video podcast. Tonight, our special guest is the athletic director and head football coach at Dunham High School. We want to welcome our special guest, head coach Neil Weiner. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. And we know that the split has caused these bye weeks to become a new standard in high school football. Set aside the notion and the idea of the split, but for bye week, I know some coaches kind of depends on whether they have injuries or not. What's your perspective on coaching through a bye week, and how does that impact your preparation?
Yeah, I think most coaches select, non-select, split, no split, whatever. Just tell us where we're playing. Let's go play some ball. And so to have a bye week, that's not a lot of fun. Our kids want to play. Our coaches want to have games. We want to make some money, but we're gonna do the best we can with what we've got. And so we kind of split the bye week up in half. We took Monday and Tuesday and kind of used it to go just, hey, football 101. You know, any team that we play, whether it's second round, third round, fourth, whatever, if they're a good team, they're going to usually run some element of this type of defense or this type of offense. And let's just get back to fundamentals. And then Wednesday, we kind of restarted the week and said, okay, let's go ahead and get a jump start on who we think will play in the second round. And, we worked out, we lift, we met, we walked through stuff. And then we practiced Thursday and had a really good Thursday practice. And then we watched film on Friday and then gave them off the afternoon and let them go watch some football if they wanted to. And, that's the best that we could do with what we have. And we're sticking with it.
Yeah, I think it's worked for you in the past, Coach. There's no reason why it shouldn't in the future. Coach, let's tell everybody, let's go back and give us your background, Coach, where you started, how long you've been coaching. And I know you're son of a legendary dad and that from Catholic High, so you bounced around a little bit, but you made a great name for yourself in the coaching profession. Give us your background, Coach. Tell our viewers exactly with all the years' experience that you've had, where you came from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 46 years old. So I've been in the coaching business for 46 years now. While my friends were playing with trucks, I had a football. When my friends in high school, my teammates were going to parties after the game, I was going back and breaking down the film with my dad. I was tagging along on Saturday mornings, going to trade film with coaches. It's really the only thing that I know. I decided I wanted to be a coach my first year in college. And so I thought the best way that I could learn to coach was to walk on at the LSU football program. And so I was really small and really slow. So I knew I wasn't going to play tight end or wide receiver like I did in high school, but I could punt. So I said, hey, I can go be the 15 punter, but I'll be at every single coach's meeting and team meeting, and I'll learn from the best. And instead of doing that, they told me, hey, just come work in the office for us instead. So I got to work for Coach Gennardo for the next 3 years. And then I worked for Coach Saban's staff for one semester until I graduated. That whole time, though, I was assisting my dad. I was a high school football coach at Catholic High while I was working in the LSU football office in the morning, helping them with scouting reports and game plan stuff. And so that was a great experience. And then got my first full-time teaching and coaching job with Sid Edwards at Redemptress in the fall of 2000. We went 14-0 and lost a tough one in the Dome to Louis Cook and Notre Dame. And I thought, man, first year real teaching and coaching, and we go to the Dome, this stuff is easy. And it didn't turn out to be like that the next 20-plus years. But had a great time at Redemptress with an unbelievable coaching staff and some really talented kids. And we did. We went to the Dome 3 out of 4 years. We beat Patterson in 2002. And then we're fortunate to beat John Curtis up in 4A in 2003. And then I had the privilege to become the head coach and athletic director at Catholic Point Capilla New Roads for 4 years, and just an awesome community. I was actually born there in the Point Capilla General back in 1977. They don't let them deliver babies there anymore. But so I got to go back to New Roads, and we had a lot of fun there. Another great coaching staff. Chad Mahaffey, David Brewerton, Rob Funderburk, all those guys, Kenny Langlois, who's the offensive coordinator at Zachary, just an incredible group of men all coaching together and having a great time as young coaches. And we had a lot of success and had a lot of fun. Left there and went to Central for one season as the offensive coordinator with the goal of trying to be a 5A head coach. And
had the privilege to go be the head coach at Zachary as they transitioned from 4A into 5A. And we put together a fantastic staff, had some really good, hardworking kids, and such a special, public school system out there. But ultimately, I grew up going to private Christian schools, and I saw what I wanted for my kids as they were growing up. And when I looked down the road, I want them to be in the same type of school where they could have Bible class and have religion classes. And that was just an important thing for all three kids to go to school with me, just like me and my sisters did growing up with my dad. Driving to school every day with my dad and my sisters is memories that I cherish. And so I've gotten to do that with my three kids now as they're going through Dunham. I've had one son that's graduated up at Louisiana Tech. I got a daughter who's a senior and a daughter in the 8th grade that'll be in the high school. So that's kind of my coaching tree there, or coaching history in a nutshell.
That's great, Coach. You have the who's who of coaches that you've actually been associated with. So
yeah.
I know you have to learn something. Coach, last year you guys were in the Superdome, had a chance. You played St. Charles Catholic, and what a game. I mean, that was a tremendous game there. And it went all the way down to the end, and they got an onside kick at the end, but you actually controlled that whole ball game until the very, very end. That was a heck of an experience for you, and I'm sure you learned from that experience also.
Yeah, absolutely. We've played St. Charles Catholic and or when Wayne took over the last 3 seasons, and it hadn't ended the way we wanted yet. But the first 2 years, I felt like, the team that had more talent on the field and obviously great coaching won the game. I felt like our team was better from a talent standpoint, but the rich program, the coaching, the belief that the St. Charles Comets have every year, it's like it just something clicked there in that fourth quarter, and they refused to give up. They refused to back down, and they executed and made some fantastic plays and some great calls by their coaching staff. But I was super proud of our kids. Dunham's only played for the state championship twice in 40 years. And so to have that group of kids be a part of that and our coaching staff take part in that was a special time.
I know, Coach, you'll probably be back. Don't worry about that. You're going to be there. Coach, tell us a little bit about your matchup. You have a matchup against Parkview in your next round right here that you guys have been preparing for them. And I know you're very familiar with them.
Yeah, very familiar. We've opened up the season against each other the last 4 or 5 years. We played them this year, week 1. We had a bunch of brand new starting guys out there. And our defense really played as poor as they've ever played. And our coaches know that, and our kids knew that. And they've answered the call. Caleb Leindecker running our defense, and his coaching staff have done a fantastic job the rest of the year of playing football the way that we like to play. And that's fast, physical, and fearless. And so we're definitely looking for improvement. We gave up 52. Now, if you can take a positive, our offense with a freshman quarterback and a whole lot of new skill guys and 3 new starters on the offensive line put up 46. So we're hoping that our offense, can come out and try to keep executing and taking what they're giving us, and then our defense can do a much better job. And Parkview Baptist got a fantastic team. Their quarterback is outstanding. Stephon LaForce, who many of you might remember playing at Christian Life and then at Louisville. He was a fantastic player, fantastic quarterback, but he's an excellent coach as well and doing a great job with those guys.
Coach, you hate to look down the road, but your bracket looks like you're on the same side as Calvary, and I know you can't. But during the off week, sometimes maybe you can peek at a team because you might have to do that. You get the extra time to have to peek at a team. Have you seen anything from them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, we don't hide from that. I mean, it's not. I'm not a coach speak guy. Like I said, we took that Monday and Tuesday and said, hey, let's look down the road. What are some of the teams and schemes we might see? And so we work on some basic stuff. I know when we played Calvary last year, they jumped out on us 14-0. Then it was 21-7. And they were incredible. I think they only graduated 2 starters from last year's team. So I know they're fantastic. Coach Guin has been a long-time successful coach, and the staff that he's put together is amazing. I really think from a pure talent standpoint, college prospects, when you look at Calvary Baptist and U High, those 2 teams are just as talented as any programs in the state.
Yeah. Coach, you've adapted well in the transition from offense to defense over all the years. What have you seen differently as far as football, the X and O's that impact you? Have you adapted to them or say, well, no, I'm going to run my same system? But I know the answer is already because you've really done a nice job of researching and doing the things that work.
Yeah, I just think you never stop growing as a coach. That's one thing that I learned from my dad. I just as a kid, he was always going to coaching clinics. He was going and visiting other coaches, buying books, buying videos, VHS, whatever. So we're always trying to learn, not for the sake of changing just to change, but we don't want to be left behind, and we always want to know what's best for our kids because you've got to have your staples, you've got to have the things that make you who you are, but you've got to build around the kids that you're going to have year in and year out, and that might look different. So across the board, obviously the no huddle, up tempo, shotgun based offense, is really kind of taken over. That's something that I've always enjoyed. When I was working at LSU, I would actually get copies of Hal Mumme and Kentucky's air raid stuff that they had just started doing in Kentucky at that time. And I love that. So I've always had that as a part of what we do. But we run the football a whole lot more than we have in the past. But we do try to go up tempo and play fast because it makes it tough on the defense. What we've seen though on defense is that adjustment of no longer just standing around and being stagnant on the defense. I think you see a lot more creativity. I know it's one thing that St. Charles Catholic has been really good at the last couple of years of bringing a lot of pressure and not just letting the offense's tempo dictate to them what they want to do. And so I think it used to be, hey, this is a 3-4 team or this is a 5-2 or a 4-3, and that's all you're going to see. These days, you may not. It may not look the same that you see week to week. They've got their base principles, but they're able to make more calls to give you more looks and prepare for. So I think those are some of the biggest changes.
Coach, one thing at the mini camp, you and I both worked it all those years, and as we rotate through the players, they might be on one field. We might see 120 players on that one field as they come through our station. And one thing I've always asked the players, how many of you guys know how to take a snap from underneath the center? There's not one. There's not one that will raise their hand because it's all gun. That's how the game is unchanged. In fact, I just listened to a guy on the radio, and he's an offensive line coach, and he said quarterbacks don't know how to take a 5-step drop anymore from underneath because everything's a gun snap. He said they don't know how to take a 5 or 7 or 3 a step drop. He said their footwork is completely. So when they come from college to pros, I thought it was very interesting. Come from college to pros, they're not used to taking the footwork with them, and that, to me that makes a lot of sense because everybody's in the gun. But Coach, what kind of change would you like to see as far as football changes and from on a national level? I've always really been big on. I want to see the hash marks move in. I've always been that's been a pet peeve of mine. We finally allowed high school guys to throw the ball out of bounds when they break the pocket. But are there any changes out there that you'd like to see?
Those two are kind of always popular things to discuss. I think the hash marks would make a big difference. Obviously, it's tough for a high school quarterback to make that throw all the way from the opposite hash to throw the ball outside, and it really limits on what you can do. I think that would help. I am grateful that we have changed the rules to help that quarterback out and protect him a little bit. I'll never forget about 6-7 years ago, we were waiting to play a Jamboree game, and Episcopal's starting quarterback, who I think was a 3-year starter, he had to hold on to a ball and wait. He ended up getting hit right on the sideline, broke his collarbone, and didn't play the rest of the year. And that's just a shame. So I'm grateful that has changed. Whether it's high school, college, or NFL, player safety is huge. And so I don't want to take anything away from that. But the way that we call targeting and those kind of things, I wish there could be a better way to be able to make that decision on what's intentional and what's not, and what's just a tackle where the helmet happens to get in the way. I'd love to be able to see that get cleared up.
I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on, Coach, in my other segment. Also, Coach, you really been very innovative and had a good plan about LHSAA redistricting programs and maybe a system that would actually work better. And I know that. Do you see any changes in coming in January or something like that? I know there's a big talk about going to divisions and things of that nature. Do you see anything on the table that that, well, if it's not on the table, would you like to see in the future besides just bringing everybody back?
Yeah, I think we're at a sensitive time, if you want to call it that, in the LHSAA right now. Overwhelmingly, our principals in our schools said the way that we're doing the playoffs are the best way to do the playoffs if we're going to split, right? But that was done by the executive committee, taking some leadership and making it happen. And a lot of principals didn't like the way it happened, even though they actually liked what happened. And so the LHSAA is trying to make sure that everybody is on board for any other big changes that might take place. The best thing to do, if we're going to have divisions for playoffs, then our district should be based on the divisions that we play in. There are several districts in the state where teams will actually split up 4 ways and go to 4 different divisions and 4 different brackets. And that's crazy. That just doesn't make any sense. So by allowing districts to be based on divisions, you'd have a lot more teams to be able to make better districts with people that are closer together. And so it is possible. We're hoping that maybe we can see something done in January. The problem is, as football coaches, we'd have to be very patient, and knowing that means our football schedules won't be finalized until January. And as you know, Coach, coaches are already done with their schedules for the most part, if maybe they've got 1 or 2. So coaches would have to be patient, and then it would also lead to a change up on the way the executive committee is put into place. Right now, all the representatives are class representatives. So by doing it by divisions, it would change those things up. So there's some hurdles to get over. I do think it's the best thing. And we sent out a poll, and almost 90% of those that responded all voted, voiced their opinion in favor of doing districts by division. So we know that's what our schools want. We know it's the best thing to do, but we do need to make sure that we follow the procedure so that everybody will be on board with it.
I agree with that, Coach. And we all like to see that to come to fruition. But one thing I could not understand, Coach, and football coaches themselves as a whole, they need to stick together in unison, because most of the handbook is for football. Let's face it, we have the other sports, but most of us for football, and we become our own enemy because we don't do what's right for the organization. We like to do what's selfish motives and what's right for ourselves. But Coach Weiner, listen, we take enough of your time. I know you want to go dig at some film, or better yet, go be a real AD and watch the basketball game. I know that you're happy with that, and I know your dinner probably in the microwave when you get home. We've done that before, for sure. But I can't thank you enough, Coach. And you've been a good friend over all those years, and just a class act. And we'll pray for you and wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Well, I appreciate it, Coach. It really is an honor every time to talk to you and to be able to come on your podcast. It really does mean a lot. You've always been so selfless with everybody. You've spent time with me talking ball, giving any advice you can. And you're a true ambassador for the sport of football, and certainly for coaches in Louisiana. And no doubt you're a Hall of Famer.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. That's the second best intro I ever had, Coach. The first was when I introduced myself. Coach, thank you so much for being with us, and good luck Friday, okay?
Thank you very much.
We want to once again thank head football coach of Dunham High School, Neil Weiner, for joining us on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. We would also like to thank LSR for being our sponsor for the show. LSR produces Southern Cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Samuel Liccardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Liccardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern Cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
Welcome back to our third and final segment of the Let's Be Frank video podcast. We would like to thank our sponsor, Riverlands Insurance, for being part of our show. Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. We're going to go ahead and dive into the Let's Be Frank segment presented by ULCS. And tonight's topic is targeting. So, Coach, tell us what your thoughts are on targeting, and a very relevant topic after watching the past 2 weeks of football.
Well, I think that's the reason I wanted to bring it up. You know, everybody here in Louisiana very, very familiar with the rules are that it seems to be discretionary. Number one, I mean, when two players are hit in opposite direction, hit it at one another, you're going to have some type of contact, and that's what football is supposed to be all about. And if the helmet hits, if it's not someone that's launching, I don't see why that's a penalty. LSU had that penalty thrown on Sam the other night. I thought that was a ludicrous call. And not only the fact that, okay, penalize him, but don't throw the kid out of the ball game for that. You cannot control whether the ball carrier is going to lower his head or not. The ball carrier is expecting to be hit. He's padded up, and that guy's padded up. That defender is not trying to hurt the guy who's just trying to get him on the ground. So I think that was important. Now when a quarterback's in the pocket, and all of a sudden you saw what happened to Jalen Daniels when that defensive end just nailed him and with the helmet contact, that's a totally different story because the quarterback's defenseless right there. He's looking up the field. He's got one hand on the ball, one hand off the ball. He's not defending himself. So it's easy for that defender to avoid that. So that penalty right there was a penalty, but yet that guy was not thrown out of the ball game. And I thought that was a big injustice to the defensive back because there's two totally different scenarios. When two guys are coming at one another, that he was not defenseless, he's the back. He can avoid it, he can go one way or the other. But I think the rule, it should be something that if I'm bringing my arms into the tackle, I'm trying to tackle you. I'm not trying to hurt you. What this is going to cause, they're causing people, because what coaches teach linebackers, defensive backs, defensive linemen, they teach you to put the head across what they call across the bow. In other words, you cross the path of, you go across, you put your head on the other arm. We used to call it bite the bicep, meaning that you don't put your hat right in the middle of the ball carrier. You put your hat on the outside of it, not inside, because then all of a sudden you just have your arm there. So, but the bottom line, you put your helmet across the bow. That's how coaches teach tackling. And that's been that way for many, many years. Well, I can't control my back that's running the football. If he lowers his head, I can't tell him where to put his head. So if there's contact, you can't blame me, but he's not defenseless. He has a chance to move. He has a chance to make a move on me or something like that. Quarterback in the pocket is a totally, totally different animal. Now, let me tell you this. There's not a player. I want everybody to understand this. There's not a player. You can't tell me one player. Take a vote. In the NFL, college, high school, you get one player to say, come tackle my legs rather than to tackle me high. Every player, 100%, would say, tackle me high. Because I'm padded, I got shoulder pads, I got a helmet that cost $400 on my head. It's like being in the spacecraft with that helmet, but yet my legs are not protected as much. I got a little simple knee pad on them. So you tell me the player, the good Lord did not make the player yet to say, come tackle my legs. So my point being is that the helmet thing is the most abused rule by officials that I've ever seen. They're really impacting the game a lot with it. Penalize the guy, but it should be used in some scenarios and some not. The quarterback in the pocket is a helpless dude, and I can understand that. But when a running back is being tackled and is helmet-to-helmet contact, why don't they call it when there's a snap at the line of scrimmage between an offensive lineman that blocks the nose guard? It's helmet-to-helmet contact every play. So the rule itself is really, really arbitrary, and I think really impacting the game.
Coach, I'm glad you talked about this topic because it's really bothered me, especially watching the past 2 weeks. And I know it's your segment, but I'm the hijacker for just a moment because I think there's a major fundamental issue with the way this is being operated right now. And the problem is their intent is not taken into account, right? So the problem is the intent of this rule was to prevent dirty hits from happening. Yet a player making a football play is being penalized by being ejected from the game because, as you mentioned, the runner lowers his helmet, right? Well, what am I supposed to do as a linebacker? If I take a shot high, I'm dirty. If I take a shot low, I'm dirty. So you want me to hit strictly middles now, right?
A better scenario, Jason, is when people call with it the shallow cross. When the receiver comes across the middle on a route, the quarterback throws the ball to him. He heads right to me, and I'm a linebacker. What am I supposed to do? I mean, how do I tackle that guy? So the bottom line is if I go low, and that's the problem there. If I go low on the guy right there, I might hurt that guy more so than if I blocked him, if I tackled him high. And that's my point. But if I blow him up as he comes through the line, which guys call a tackle, if I blow him up, I'm going to get a penalty and maybe get thrown out of the game. And so therefore, a shallow cross route, any crossing route, headed towards another defender. I mean, you put yourself in a position that you're going to get thrown out of the game.
And that's exactly. And the big thing, Coach, is intent should matter, right? The intention of this rule was to prevent dirty hits. And right now, that's not what's happening. Right now, it's pick and choose what situations you want to call this penalty. It's people in a booth, not even present at the football game, making these decisions from cameras. And it's outrageous. It's ridiculous because the people making the calls are not the ones that are on the field, first of all. And you're inserting yourself into a football game where it may or may not matter. So you're telling me a week ago when Alabama did it, it didn't matter. Right. But now when it's LSU, it's the running back lowering his helmet. Now all of a sudden it matters. Well, make it make sense. Make it make sense. Why isn't intent taken into account? Because one guy, as you mentioned, Coach, a defenseless player and making a football play are two completely different things. Yet one is penalized and one isn't. And the rule needs to be relooked at, changed, as you mentioned, and completely taken back to formula. Because right now it is not working.
I agree.
So let's go ahead and take a look at our Blitz the Ball Coach segment. Coach, today you want to go ahead and talk about rugby punting.
Yeah, guys, what's happened now, you notice in the NFL has picked this up. Rugby punting is a form of punt where the punter just doesn't stay stationary anymore. Now, some teams do both. They stay stationary. If they backed up, they would do both. They back of their 15 yards, and they use different punting techniques, blocking techniques. And they use two gunners on the outside, two fast guys on the outside. Some people use three gunners. Some people use four, depending upon your configuration. But the snap hole punt must get off on time. It's normally 2.2 is a real good time to get off. But what people are doing to negate returns is what they call rugby punt, where the snapper, the punter himself, takes the ball and starts running to his punt leg side. If he's right-footed, naturally, he's going to run to the right, and all the protections slide to the right with him. So they slide to the right, and he punts the ball, and this won't be a pretty punt. It's normally end over end. It's designed to hit the ground, and maybe you can cover the guy. It really, really negates a lot of returns. Now, because you're punting the ball in between the hashes and the sideline, and so it's restricting the field, it becomes a compression punt. But a lot of people are doing this. They're doing it in college, where they have to slide the protection. The punter runs to the side, and he just punts the ball on the run. Now, it takes a special guy, to be able to do this. Not all punters can do this. They must prefer the stationary and the traditional way of just taking the snap and taking the two steps and punting the football. But I've seen a lot of NFL teams starting to do this now, and it's really been helping in negating some of these big returns.
Thanks, Coach. We're going to go ahead and move on to our final segment, which is the lock of the week. Coach, who are you liking in the matchups this week?
I'm going to go with North Carolina, and North Carolina with the points. I think they're getting 6.5 points against Clemson. And because I think the quarterback is really good for North Carolina, May has too many points to be given Clemson, even though Clemson's playing at home.
I'm going to take UGA with the points, 10.5 on the road against Tennessee. I know it's on the road, and it's a brutal environment, but after taking that loss, we kind of talked about it earlier, Tennessee's season feels over. It feels dead in the water. Georgia tends to play their best football, as they always do under Kirby Smart, on the tail end of the season. And right now, they are like a snowball rolling full speed down that hill. And I feel like there's really only a few teams that even have a chance to stop them. And I don't think Tennessee is one of them. So give me Georgia 10.5, regardless on the road at Tennessee. I like the Bulldogs in that one.
Okay.
So that'll go ahead and do it for our show. We want to go ahead and remind you to follow us on our social media platforms. Remember to follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. For Facebook, it's going to be at the Let's Be Frank Video Podcast. On X, Instagram, and TikTok, it's the LBF Podcast. So before we get out of here, any final thoughts, Coach?
This guy, just everybody, let's go out to a ball game this weekend. Let's pull for your favorite team. Be a fan and not a critic. Let's also remember our veterans and pray for our veterans that fought for the freedom that we now have in this country. And also, we ask that you all say your prayers and pray for this country and the war in the Middle East.
Thank you, Coach. And that'll do it for our show. Remember to join us again next Wednesday. And we're going to have Gordy Rush on next week, so please make sure to tune in. So for our producer, Justin Thomas, for Hall of Fame head coach Frank Monica, I am Jason Duhe. And remember, let's lay ball and lay let the good times roll.